So I'm going to briefly go over some basics about this ordinance. Within your packet, there's information sheets, has our logo on it. And the good thing with this sheet is it has the contact information. If you want to contact myself or Chief Masuda, it has our email address and our phone number. So you can call us or call or email anytime if you have any questions or inquiries about what's going on with this regarding the ordinance itself and or the life safety evaluation. More importantly, if you're going to be sending anything official, you want to make sure that you address and mail it to our fire chief. So his name is there along with the address. And that's mostly for the intent to comply letters. That's where they should be going to and addressed to. So yeah, this ordinance is basically was developed to provide minimum life safety requirements for not only the occupants but also for the firefighters. And we treat the life safety evaluation as a tool to determine the life safety of the building. Yeah. So good information to look through. The second page is the guidelines of the ordinance itself. So how many of you actually had a chance to read Ordinance 1814? Okay. Was it a fun read? Yeah, that's what we thought. But it's very technical, a lot of deadlines, a lot of information. What I did was I just wanted to kind of simplify that a little bit. So the main gist of the ordinance is there are certain deadlines that you need to meet in order to comply. Well, the first main objective of the ordinance is that it only applies to existing high-rise residential buildings that are not fully sprinklered. We've been receiving letters from buildings that are 3 stories, 2 stories. We've even gotten letters from hotels that are already fully sprinklered. So we believe the public doesn't really fully understand the definition and who's responsible to comply with the ordinance. So that's the key. Existing residential high-rise, as defined in the fire code, 75 feet high and not sprinklered. So if you're fully sprinklered or if you're not a high-rise, you don't have to comply with this ordinance. So we shouldn't be receiving any letter from you, from the property manager, the building owner, the AOL. Yeah. Now, if you want to determine if your building is a high-rise, that's where the expertise of the licensed design professional comes into play. That person would be able to determine whether or not your building is a high-rise. There are a lot of buildings out there that are right on the edge of being a high-rise. There are 7-story buildings, 8-story buildings. We couldn't tell you just from that information if you're a high-rise. You might need to have that building measured from where it's supposed to start at the ground level to the ceiling of the highest unit, not to the elevator room on the roof. It's to the highest occupiable space. So that would be a very important piece, because if you're 74 feet 11 inches, you're not a high-rise, and you don't have to comply with the ordinance. But if you're 75 feet, you'd have to comply if you're not sprinklered, yeah? So that's very important to understand. So the first part about the ordinance is the intent to comply letter. Very simple. You're just stating that you're going to be complying with the ordinance. You're not stating that you're going to be sprinkling your building. You're going to be stating that you're complying with the ordinance. So this letter can be sent by the property management company or the building owner or the board president or the board itself. It doesn't matter who. We just want to make sure we receive it. The deadline was November 2nd, but as Chief Masuda specified, the deadlines got extended. So, but it's better to get them in as soon as you can. That way you don't have to worry about getting it in later. The life safety evaluation is very important. That needs to be completed by a licensed design professional. So we get a lot of questions about, well, what is a licensed design professional? So a licensed design professional would be a person who's very knowledgeable with the fire codes as well as the building codes. They need to understand those codes in order to complete the evaluation. So it would be the property manager, building owner, or the board to determine that person. It could be an architect, an engineer, someone who understands what they're looking at. You wouldn't want to hire somebody who has no knowledge of the fire or building codes to conduct your eval. Yeah, you want to have somebody who understands what they're looking for. They're going to have to do the research. They might have to request information from the Honolulu Fire Department with regards to the building. They might even have to go to the Department of Planning and Permitting to get information about the building. They're going to have to conduct an on-site. They're going to have to know what they're looking at. What's a standpipe? What's the fire alarm system? The difference between smoke detectors and smoke alarms? Everything. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence and your homework to pick the right person for the job. And it might mean having to interview several different firms or engineers to make sure you have the right person. And we do not have a list of trained engineers. We provided information sessions, but we don't have a list of those who we could provide to you. That's actually against city ethics for us to recommend any specific person or company. So after you get your letters into us, you'll get a response. That's our job. We have an office of 4. We respond to every letter that we receive. You get a response that we received your letter. And then after that, it's time to get the evaluation done. You have some time to do that. And then after the evaluation's done, whether or not you passed or failed, that has to be submitted to the Honolulu Fire Department. And during that time, you could actually appeal the decision. If you don't agree with the evaluation, you can appeal. And then the Honolulu Fire Department would then have to review the appeal and then make a decision on that. And I didn't want to go over a lot of those dates. If you need more information, you can actually read the ordinance. It has all the dates. There's actually information in this packet that has a bunch of deadlines in there. It's in the packet, so you could read that. There are some exceptions to the ordinance that allows a building to opt out of sprinklers, so make sure you understand that. But there are no exceptions to having the evaluation done. Everybody has to have the evaluation completed if you meet those parameters of being an existing high-rise residential building, not sprinklered. And there is a lot of time to get everything done, especially with Bill 72, extended all the deadlines. I initially thought 3 years was enough time to get the eval done, but now you have, about 5 years to get the evaluation done. And then you have another 5 years to get a passing score if you didn't pass. So there's actually a lot of time to get this done. Okay. Now, the next information sheet I have here is a life safety evaluation. Like Chief Masuda mentioned, it's intended for the engineers or the licensed design professional to do, not for the resident or the manager. This life safety evaluation was developed with fire codes and building codes in mind. Yeah, it wasn't just developed from nowhere. They used a lot of information to get this evaluation made. And there is the LSE is in the packet. It consists of 8 tables. And in order to get it done, the professional will need to go through each table and enter the values based on the parameters. So that person's going to have to do a lot of research, a lot of homework, and he or she will have to understand while walking through the building, what the building has, so he can accurately provide the correct value within the tables. The LSE is basically an Excel spreadsheet, so you can get that from our website. It's available. And the person doing the evaluation, they'll only be able to enter values in certain cells. Every sheet is locked. There's only certain cells where you can enter data. So wherever the data is entered, it's going to have an effect on the other tables. So some of the tables within the evaluation have fillable values. There are other tables where there are not fillable values. So it's a working document. In the end, all of the parameters that are entered is going to determine whether or not your building passed or failed the evaluation. Let's see. So you want to make sure that you, the building owner, manager, property manager, or the board, you make sure that you work with that licensed design professional to get the evaluation done. It shouldn't be a one-sided deal. It should be a two-sided deal. You should be working with that professional. You might have questions for that person. He's going to have a lot of questions for you. There's going to have to be agreements made with regards to possibly going into a unit to get a sampling. Like Chief mentioned earlier, we don't expect every unit to have an inspection. You can work with the residents to get information needed regarding smoke alarms in the units, whether or not all the doors have closers. You can get a sampling size, and we don't want to determine what that sampling size is. We're going to leave that to the professionalism of the licensed design professional. So that person would be the one to submit and sign his name and stamp his approval based on the sample sizing that he or she determines. We got a lot of questions about, well, should it be 50% of the units, 25%, 100%? We said, well, we're going to leave it on the expertise of that professional. So, and lastly, the building has to maintain a passing score throughout the life of the building. Some of the questions you received was, well, once we did it, we're done, we don't have to do this again. Well, you want to make sure that it's maintained throughout the life of the building. So that would be a determination based upon the agreement between the AOAO and a professional. You could be a yearly thing, every other year. We don't have, that's not in the ordinance as to how often that needs to be maintained. That's something that needs to be worked between the professional as well as the AOAO. So you just want to make sure that you maintain that minimum passing score. I think that's all I have. Okay, so yeah, I didn't want to go through each table in detail. The LSC is in the packet, and if we get more time, we could answer some questions on it. I guess towards the end of the of this. Yeah. Sure. Thank you.